show is on hiatus for the time being. No new episodes for a while. We haven't done anything since July, but I have collated clips from 5 of the most viewed episodes on YouTube. So there is 5 different guests here with little excerpts, little clips of what we were talking about at the time. And the most viewed episode was Monte of Monte and the Pharaoh, the fantastic Monte and the Pharaoh. So without further ado, here's a clip with Mike in 2021.
So
you live within the New York State area. I've got to ask you now, when you were watching it many years ago, some matches. I'm assuming you went to MSG a lot. So yeah, just matches, man, that you've got to see over the years that stand out.
So I was a frequent visitor to MSG. So my favorite match of all time was the War to Settle the Score. Hulk Hogan against Roddy Piper. That's the start of rock and wrestling. We took the train. We were at the top of the Garden, like the last seat. There's no seats to be held. I think we bought it from a scalper. Me and my friends. And Stu, when I think about that match to this day, I still get chills. That place was unglued for 30 minutes. And, it's funny. Hulk Hogan, for, again, today's wrestling fan, they're always looking for the great wrestling match. To me, wrestling's not about that. Wrestling is about how they can drag you in, make you invested. If you're not invested, look, dude, we're older, right? So when we're kids, it's much easier to get invested. These are your superheroes. Of course, you're going to care. That's almost nature. But as you get older, things change, right? God, if we were interviewing someone at 10 years old and you were interviewing Del Wilkes at 10 years old, I bet you the interview that Stu did at 10 would be completely different than the interview you're doing now, right? So my point is to me, Hulk Hogan is the GOAT, right? That guy changed wrestling forever. Some of the greatest, in my opinion, wrestling matches. And when I say wrestling matches, I mean what they meant to the people and the industry. I hear a lot of, I make fun of a lot of people. I'm going to use the quotes here, the pro wrestling experts, right? That always want to talk about these high level matches, or like the Ricky Steamboat's Ric Flair match, for example. To me, it was a good match. I watched it. Okay. I watched it live numerous times. It was a great match, but it was nowhere in comparison to the stuff that we saw in the 80s with Hulk Hogan, from Hogan Andre, which I still consider the greatest match of all time. Those guys didn't have to do a single thing, and 90,000, a billion people were crazy over it. Let's not forget about the main event on Friday with Hogan, on a Friday night with Hogan and Andre, when Andre wins the belt. Macho Man Savage, WrestleMania 5 against Hogan. Ultimate Warrior against Hogan. And then even in later years, The Rock against Hogan. But going back, to me personally, the War to Settle the Score, the buildup between Piper and Hogan, where now you got to think about this still. Piper probably was 6 foot at best. He probably was taking some of the gas at the point. So let's just put him at 220, all right, at best. Going against a 280 pound, 6'7" dude who's larger than life. And you're like, this guy's going to beat Hulk Hogan and take that title away. And there was no question that this could definitely happen. And by the time this whole story had built up, Stu, if I could bring you in that arena, Madison Square Garden, on that day, there would be no doubt in my mind. I know you said you were there. You said you were there for the British Bulldog and Bret Hart, right? You might say that was the greatest match you've ever saw in your life. And the way they go at it, punching. What anyway? I don't have to. If you want to watch it, just go watch it on YouTube or go watch the Ward Settle the Score, the whole MTV thing. But to me, that probably was the greatest. And I've seen them all, man. I was there for snooker.
Oh my days!
And Morocco, I was there.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Mick Foley, Mick Foley, when he said over the years on documentaries, he was there. Just, man, incredible. I got to MSG in 2013 for the Hall of Fame, but we were staying in New Jersey because obviously the big show was at MetLife. So we were in and out of New York for the week. So I got to see Bruno, go in, which is incredible. But yeah, man, I've got to get to Madison Square Garden. So just, the Mecca. It is the Mecca. The fantastic Mike Monte from Monte and the Pharaoh. You can catch all their content on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Facebook, in-studio interviews with talent from years gone by, current talent, you name it. They've had the myriad of people from within the industry and great stories there from Mike about being at Madison Square Garden, being at the War to settle the score when MTV came in with WWE, and it led to WrestleMania 1, of course, at MSG. And just great memories there from Mike from the 80s. And he'd been at several shows in the New York area over the years when wrestling was truly at its peak. So, yeah, it was lovely having him on. Him and Jimmy have been fantastic. I had Jimmy on earlier this year, a great guest. And Jimmy is a football fan. He's a soccer fan as well. He's a Man United fan. So, yeah, I look forward to getting in touch with Jimmy and hopefully getting him on the football and soccer show. The wrestling show is on hiatus, okay? But I've got so many clips from nearly 200 episodes of this podcast. So these little specials will be happening. This is the most viewed episodes on YouTube. I'm moving swiftly on. This is Jeanne Basone, a.k.a. Hollywood from Glow, who came on the show in 2020. And she's been doing the convention circuit after COVID, post-COVID. But this was during COVID, this episode. A fantastic guest for the 50th episode back in 2020. This is Jeanne Basone, a.k.a. Hollywood from Glow. Do you have creative ideas for the character, or were you told how the character would be?
So, first of all, before the girls were chosen, they said, these are the characters that we have in mind for you girls to play. There were different sorts. And Hollywood and Vine, those characters appealed to me, as did Tina and Ashley. I'm like, those are characters that I could relate to. So when they said, Jeanne, you're going to be Hollywood, I was like, yes, oh, this is exciting. So from there, they said to me, okay, I go, well, what is Hollywood? Well, she's a bad girl. All right. So that's easy. She doesn't follow directions or rules, breaks rules. And they said that we were these street punks. I'm like, God, I go, what? A street punk? This is interesting. Let's see how that works. What I started doing is I wasn't quite liking the outfit that they came up for me, this one piece that was just unflattering for my body type. I'm really skinny thin, not any curves anywhere. So I started coming up with other ideas for the character. So if you think about the 80s, and music, I was way into 80s rock and roll, which would be classic rock today, I guess. I don't know, but what hard rock. So I'm like watching these chicks on Motley Crue videos, Judas Priest videos, Cinderella videos, and they had crimped hair, and they had gloves, and they had corsets, and fishnets. I'm like, I am going to dress like that. So I had a lot of input on the way that they let me. I didn't even have to ask anybody. I just started bringing in outfits, and just one for Vine, one for me. The animal print, when animal print was like, which still is today, actually. So yeah, we had a lot of input. At least I did, for my character, as far as what to wear, hair, makeup.
Cool to have the creative freedom, because obviously you hear about over at WWE, a lot of it, they're told what they've got to do and how the character should be. So it's cool that you had the freedom to do that.
Yeah. Well, they did. They gave some of us freedom and some not. You know what I mean? I mean, there were specific, like the Russian needed to be in that specific outfit. Royal Hawaiian would be in her specific outfit. I mean, you got to change here and there, but if you look, like, they all have the same outfits. Mountain Fiji had the same outfit. Matilda the Hun had the same outfit. If you look at some of the matches from season 1 to 4, I have different color hair. So that was really cool about my characters. I could change the hair. At least he let me have mine long. Some people, like poor Lightning, he wanted Lightning who had hair to here to chop it off to here as a superheroine. I know she didn't like that. No, Godiva, she had the same outfit because that's Lady Godiva. So for me, I was very lucky that we had the opportunity to take it a step farther and make our characters look hot or not.
The wonderful Jeanne Basone there, a great guest for the 50th installment of Stu's Wrestling Podcast way back in 2020. I've got to say thank you to Richie Sorrentino of Good Times Guaranteed for getting us linked up. He got me a lot of guests in 2020. When everybody was off work, we needed stuff to do. I was hammering the content for Stu's Wrestling Podcast at that time. I think I was doing like 3 to 4 episodes a week, recording at least. So I was sat on a lot of content, but Jeanne has been fantastic. She's had a great legacy for women's wrestling. Obviously, Glow came out as a series on Netflix, and yeah, just good times. We will have to get Jeanne, aka Hollywood from Glow, back on when I do come off the hiatus. I would love to get her back on because she's been doing so much in the last 4 years. Moving on, it is the son of the great Ivan Putski, former Global Wrestling Federation, WCW and WWE talent, Scott Putski. Another one who is one of the most viewed on YouTube on the Stu's Wrestling Podcast channel. Here, Scott talks about his time in WWF, WWE, and how he felt that time went in the company.
He's not really Vince. Benny didn't like that. They had a rift between each other. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, looking back, that's kind of why I left after I got hurt. But yeah, he didn't want to. I mean, the dumbass put me in a light heavyweight. I was 250.
I always can I just say about this? I was 11 years old at this point when you came in. I thought this guy is jacked. I always, even at that age, I'm thinking he's too big. He's too big to be working a program at light heavy.
And Shawn Michaels is 180 pounds and he's the heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. And I'd ride with I was always hanging out with Joe and Animal and Hawk, and they were like, man, this is bullshit. He's got something against you. And I was like, man, it don't matter. He don't like my. And so they basically just, they helped me out, man. I mean, they kept me on kind of an even keel, but yeah, it was shit. It was shit, man. It was, it was good, the work wise, but it just, just how they kind of treated me was shitty. Yeah.
How was it backstage from your perspective, or did you just not get involved?
Well, you had the clique with Sean and those guys, and Sean didn't like anybody that was better than him, and they were going to try to put the thumb on anybody. It was back politics like anything. I mean, they wouldn't say it to your face, but you knew what was going on.
How was Brett with you?
Brett was great. I mean, Brett, Davey Boy, all those guys. Yeah, Owen, I was in good with them. So, they really he couldn't do anything. And of course they wouldn't do anything, but it was just a weird deal. It's like, and I look back and I really wish MMA would have been around. UFC would have been around back then, because I mean, I was a legit athlete. I mean, and I would have done that because, in that, if you kick somebody's ass, you kick their ass. I mean, there's nothing they can't tell you. If you get your ass beat, you get your ass beat. I mean, there's no story. I mean, there is pseudo storylines to build up to the match, but once you get in there, And Conor McGregor, my God, he's the one that made UFC and MMA what it is today.
I'm not
I don't care what it is.
I'm not having people moaning about him at all. Look how much he is the cash cow. Look how much money he's made. And
What is he supposed to do?
People are like, oh, he's crap. He's this. He's that. He's been the benchmark. He pulls in the most buy rates.
Right. You can't deny that.
I can't. I love him. I was up on the weekend for the fight. I think
I was bummed, man.
I really thought he was going to beat him, but
he should have, but he just didn't take into account those leg kicks.
No,
that was with his downfall.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I don't know. I mean, but that was it. First round, he had him.
Yeah, he was up. He definitely he had the highest strike. He had the highest strikes.
Yeah,
Poirier couldn't land the strikes.
He wore his legs out.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't hitting him in the shins. He was hitting him in the calves. So that's just me. Now, if he'd have turned his feet out and he'd have hit those calves, he'd have stopped kicking.
They're gonna have to do it. They're gonna have to do the trilogy fight now because it's 1-1. They have to do that.
He said it. He's interested.
I still maintain his best division, his best weight is 155. I know he's flip-flopped up to 170.
Yeah, he can't go down. He gets too depleted.
Yeah. And then 170, I think it's too much for him in terms of cardio. The fantastic Scott Putski there, veteran pro wrestler. And you know what? It's good going off the topic of wrestling with my guests as well. I love all sorts of sports. Obviously, football, soccer is my number one. Wrestling's a close second. Boxing, probably close second. And MMA to a certain extent, of course. But yeah, it was good going off kilter there. Scott's obviously a big fan of MMA. And like you said, he would have loved to have gone into that. It was just timing, wasn't it? But yeah, when he came into WWE in 97, I was in awe, man. I was in awe. And I just couldn't place him light heavy in that division. Obviously, Vince needed talent in there, but like he said, he was bigger. He was bigger than Shawn Michaels. Yet Shawn Michaels was the champion. But again, Scott, fantastic man. Very gracious of him to come on back in 2020. Also, 2020 was amazing for the show. It really was. The amount of guests I got. And it's been fantastic. It's been so rewarding as well. And moving on, back in 2020 as well, during COVID, obviously WWE were running shows, and this is TJ Wilson, aka Tyson Kidd, who's been a producer with WWE for years now. Obviously, his career got cut short due to a life-changing injury, which could have led to his death as well. But thankfully, he's still with us, and he's been a producer now for many, many years. I know you hear from the talent when they do shows and stuff like that, saying how much they respect TJ. A fantastic worker and fantastic person as well. We've remained in contact 4 years on, and just amazing. So here he is. It's Mr. TJ Wilson, Tyson Kidd, and he's talking about his time in the UK before he was signed to a WWE developmental deal with Deep South. So here he is, Tyson Kidd, TJ Wilson. Which promotions?
I wrestled for All Star Wrestling. I was there for 4 months in 2005 from January till the beginning of May.
Wow.
I'm trying to think if I wrestled for maybe one called like GCW once with Mikey Whiplash. And Davey's father actually came to the show it was a little outside of Goulburn. And both times I went there was for All Star Wrestling. So I was wrestling like the Butlins camps, but the first time I was there was a lot of town shows, Croydon, and a lot of places like that.
Was it good? Was it good coming over to the UK at that time?
Yeah, it was very good. It was good for me to experience wrestling like that on a full-time basis. Like I have a weird memory for certain things, but I know that first time I was there for 105 days, and I was wrestled 75 shows in those 105 days. And then the next time I was there, which was right before my tryout, with WWE, I was there for 63 days. I was there for 9 weeks. I had 56 shows, so I had 7 days off in 9 weeks. And yeah, so it just it's a ton of reps, man, and you learn a lot. I learned a lot in England. I definitely valued my time there. I didn't look back at it with any kind of, you know, bad feelings or anything. I enjoyed my time there, and I definitely learned a lot and took a lot away from there.
Adding stuff to your tool belt in the early career.
Sure, 100%.
That's cool.
Like there was a guy that was a trainee under the school there, and like his very first match one day is him and one of the guys against myself and Chad Collier. You know, Chad's been wrestling a long time too. At that time, I've been wrestling for 11 years, which seemed long. Now it doesn't, but it seemed long at the time. And this is this guy's very first match ever. So like there was a lot of things like when you're wrestling someone for their first match, you really have to put yourself back in the time you had your first match, and like how did you feel, and how like I can tell you I told you I know how nervous I was. So I could only imagine. I was wrestling my friend. He doesn't like he was friendly. He and I were friendly. He knows me, but he's never wrestled me. He doesn't know if that switch flicks and I'm a different person. So it was cool. I learned a lot there. Like you said, just adding different things, putting different things in my tool belt, especially in terms of wrestling on like that constant of a basis.
That's cool, man. When, like, just on a timeline basis now, when was the call from WWE for like developmental?
So this is while I was over there in the summer of 2006, I got a call confirming like, hey, your tryout is the first week of October at Deep South. So while I was over there, I knew that I had my tryout coming up.
Who else was in and around Deep South at the same time as you?
So Natty and I had a tryout at the same time, as well as Alpha Jr., Manu. And guys that were there were Luke Gallows, Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder, all still very good friends of mine. Sonny Siaki was there. Brad J. Connor from Ascension. Chrissy Vane. Angelina Love. Kevin Matthews, I think, he was there for my trial, but he was injured.
That's quite a list of names, that.
Yeah.
It
was really cool. Dave Taylor was one of the coaches there, but I teamed with Dave and wrestled with Dave in England. So when I walked in, I'm so nervous for my tryout, so nervous. And I walk in, and the first face I see is Dave Taylor. And he's like, TJ. And then like, man, I didn't feel at ease, but it definitely eased the situation. MVP was another one. MVP was the first guy. He was the first guy I did a drill with it in the Deep South.
It's great. I know it's like the present. It's good seeing MVP back on TV.
Yeah, man. He's been doing awesome, you know. He's a hell of a character.
Charisma can't be taught.
Oh, yeah.
Can't be taught, can it?
No.
So that was way back in 2020, and it was the first ever 2-part interview that I did on Stu's Wrestling Podcast, because Tyson, TJ had so much to talk about, so we did it over 2. It's amazing. Please delve into the archives. Just put in Stu's Wrestling Podcast, put Tyson Kidd, TJ Wilson into YouTube, into Spotify, Apple. You'll find both parts, part 1 and 2 of the interviews. And I met him in Liverpool many years ago, waiting at the gym, being a fanboy. He came out, there is a photo. And I also met him at Fan Access when I was at WrestleMania. Him and Zack Ryder, a.k.a. Matt Cardona, were doing a dual signing at Access. So yeah, I've got the opportunity to meet him twice, and we've stayed in touch, birthdays and things like that. There's messages. So yeah, fantastic. And we know how much the talent love him as a producer in WWE. We know how fantastic Natalya Natty has been. What a career she's had as well. What a couple they are. And I know they train. They've got ring. They have wrestlers with them training as well there in Florida. So yeah, just they've given so much to the business, and amazing. It's been so fruitful, this show. It really, really has. Moving on, the final clip from the most viewed episodes on YouTube of Stu's Wrestling Podcast. It's a wrestler from the 80s. It's a female wrestler, and it is none other than Mad Maxine, who got out of the business relatively early, and she talks about this in detail in this clip. So here she is, author and journalist. It's Mad Maxine in the final clip of the most viewed episodes of Stu's Wrestling Podcast on YouTube. Here we go. Wrestling, do you ever catch any of the modern product, or are you totally away from it these days?
I'm aware of it, but I do not follow it at this point. That part of basically that door has closed. I mean, I played basketball on scholarship in college, and once I stopped doing that, I was no longer interested in basketball. It just makes me twitchy to do, to watch either basketball or wrestling, and so I just don't do it. But it's not that I don't think that, on the occasions when I have found it, watched a match, I am very impressed by the caliber of training and matches. It's not the, a lot of it is not the TNA, kind of just, pretty women out there doing things, but it's more serious wrestling. And that's what Moolah trained us to do. I mean, actually not Moolah, but her, the people who worked for Moolah. So I think it's come a long way, and I hope they're being paid, commensurately with their skills.
I've been like the likes of Charlotte Flair and that, they're fantastic, and but women's wrestling was always there. It's just, the profile of it, I feel for you guys in the time when you were doing it, because you guys are putting it all on the line just the same as them. Right.
And, I mean, I don't know if it's true now, but somebody described to me as like, that women were always thought of as like a gimmick, like midget wrestling or, Jello wrestling or, anything with like a gimmick. It wasn't really considered, the real deal. And, that's pretty insulting, considering, as you say, I'm in touch with the women of my era, and, they're many of them are paying the price for, having, taken so many bumps and so many, falls, and it's really hard on your body. I mean, your body it just, just wears your body out. And not everybody, but, I felt kind of grateful to have gotten out. I mean, I did it. It was, I had the experience for a couple of years and got out before I got seriously injured. And I was like, whew.
Did you worry about the girls that were still in the business and in the situations they were in when you left?
I was, I didn't actually. I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about escaping, because my last, I had that experience in Houston where everything got stolen from me. And then the very last match that I had was at the Astrodome in New Orleans with Dark Journey. And I got hurt and humiliated. My top fell off, and in the middle, and it was like a massive crowd. And just the whole thing was just like, I was looking for a sign. It was like, okay, just show me a sign when I should leave. And it was like, got ripped off, got humiliated, got hurt, time to get out. And it coincided with my sister getting married up in DC. And so I went there, and I was just like, that was it. I wanted to have a full experience. I didn't want to just the whole point of doing it was not just put my toe in the water and then write about it, to take something. I wanted to, I wanted to be part of it. And I feel like I achieved that. But, I also admire and respect the women who have done it for 20 and 30 years. I mean, they're just some, veterans who have really, they really have put everything into it. And that's what they wanted to do with their lives. but I think some of them are really paying the price with their health right now.
That was Mad Maxine, a guest on Stu's Wrestling Podcast in 2021. And yeah, her book, The Chronicles of Mad Maxine, is available on Amazon and all other good book stockists. So it plays a part in her career. You know, the Chronicles, amazing. Please, if you like your autobiographies and you like supporting the wrestlers, please get Jeanne's book, because it is amazing. And as I say, you can get it on Amazon and all good book stockists. That is The Chronicles of Mad Maxine. A fantastic guest. She got out the business on her terms. You know, you don't hear about that so often. You know, people were in the business financially. They were, you know, they were in there. There was, you know, you had families to support. So she did it on her terms. She managed to get out, and yeah, a fantastic person. She's an author. She's a journalist as well. You know, there is life after wrestling for these guys. You know, some guys can't get out, but people have, you know, and she was such a nice lady. And yeah, another fantastic episode for me. And again, I've learned so much from having these guys on. I can't say it enough. And, you know, I've been trying to help people recently as well as a couple of lads that have got shows here in the UK. So I'm trying to support them because I've had support. I've had people in my corner with this show. Without them, I wouldn't have got guests, and they kept me going. They gave me drive. These people know who they are. But yeah, it's really fruitful. You know, if you want to start a podcast, you hear about Chris Van Fleet saying this, do it. Give it a go. Have a go. Honestly, whatever topic you want to do, it doesn't have to be wrestling, sports, you know, any interest you've got, come away from sports. You know, I can give people advice as well now. You know, there was stuff at the beginning that I was doing. I was too note heavy initially. I had papers and papers and papers, double-sided, loads of stuff. But as it got on, I was doing bullet points. I made it, you know, I shorten things, but always have an overflow of questions, because obviously sometimes guests come on and, you know, they've got a time limit and stuff like that, but always have extra questions at the ready. Most guests talk at length, but you are going to get guests that come on, you know, and their answers are going to be shorter in length. So always prepare for that. Prep is key. And as I say, the two guys here in the UK that are starting out, they've had some fantastic guests. So yeah, it's all good. I'm here for people now, and at the moment, it's just been nice stepping away. It really has. I couldn't believe it was July when I had Raymond Rougeau on, and I also had Vance Nevada on, who was the last guest I had on back in July for episode 185. But yeah, if you want to do a podcast, do it. This is my advice. Go for it. It's been a great outlet for me mentally. It's helped me with my anxiety, with my depression. So yeah, it's been great. And this was the most viewed episodes of Stu's Wrestling Podcast on YouTube. I think we'll be back with some other special titles and stuff like that going forward, whilst I've not got stuff coming out. So there'll be more clips. There'll be a specific area with these different guests. You know, they'll all Wrestling Podcast. Thank you very, very much to my listeners and my viewers. You can find us on Apple. Type in Stu's Wrestling Podcast. On Spotify, do exactly the same thing. Stu's Wrestling Podcast. All the podcast apps. YouTube, Stu's Wrestling Podcast. TikTok, if you like clips and shorts, head over to TikTok. Type in Stu's Wrestling Podcast. There is a myriad of clips from over the years, and we keep adding to that. YouTube as well, the shorts on there. X, you will find clips on there. Instagram as well. And yeah, we'll see you very, very soon for the next installment, 187 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast.